What's up, guys? Mark back here with yet another video, and today I wanted to kind of talk to you all just a little bit. I've gotten several different questions because I think some of my viewers have probably started to notice that I have, in fact, been picking up on a little bit more of the Panasonic stuff here lately, and that's not by accident. And I was also testing out this little sound booth that I'm trying to construct and make so that when I do voiceover videos and stuff like that, it doesn't sound as echoey. I mean, I've got just a ton of reflective surfaces because I like stuff to stay extremely clean and neat. And, you know, whenever you get something that's fuzzy, it just collects everything. And I've got a ton of animals. And so we've ripped up the carpet in most of the house and just taken everything out in general that would normally make a room much more hospitable to voiceover stuff, and we've just gotten rid of it. So anyway, you guys can let me know how you like the sound in the comments down below. I would appreciate a little bit of feedback on that. So anyway, some of you may have noticed that I've been doing a little bit more stuff in the Panasonic department, and like I said, that's not by accident. I think Panasonic is doing some pretty good things. There are generally two things that keep me from moving away from Sony at this point. The first one being ISO, and the second one being autofocus. That's pretty much the way it goes. There are a lot of different cameras out there, and a lot of good cameras. I'm not saying that any of these kinds of these other brands are bad. But as I've said in previous videos, some of you may have seen them, some of you may not have, but most of these cameras are just tools. You know, some of them are extremely pretty, you know, and you just want to get them for collector's sake. You know, some of the old Nikon, the Nichromat cameras, the old F-series and all that kind of stuff. Those are beautiful cameras. Some of the old Olympuses, beautiful cameras. Some of the old Leicas, beautiful cameras. Some of the old Hasselblads, beautiful cameras. But you don't buy those necessarily in today's world to use on a consistent basis. I mean, those are hobby cameras now. You know, film is kind of a dying medium. It's more of a hassle to deal with than to just record digitally. But my point being is that cameras are tools. They're not meant to be like a team that you would root for, right? And I find a lot of people that get into whatever it is they're into. You know, if they really like something, they don't want you to like anything else. And I don't really find the benefit in that. If you have a job to do, then you are supposed to pick the right tool for the right job. And in so many cases, I find that when people really like something, they want you to like it too. And if you dare like anything else, then, you know, be damned. Because they don't want you to like it. They don't want you to talk about it. I don't understand that at all. I mean, it's so counterintuitive to have a job, need a specific feature, or desire a specific feature, and then you're not allowed to use it because it's, you know, made by somebody else. So it really doesn't make much sense. So moving on from that, I have been looking quite a bit at Panasonic, and like I said, in my live stream test video the other night, I did get in contact with my rep over at B&H, and I'm working on getting an evaluation copy of the G85 or the GX85 or whatever it's called. I don't know Panasonic yet. I think it's called the G85 though. Anyway, I want my evaluation copy, and sensor tech is getting so good these days that in most circumstances, if you're going to light your scene appropriately, you're going to pull some really good images out of that stuff. So, you know, there are way too many people that place so much value on extremely high ISO values that they tend to forget that most people don't shoot in pitch black. I mean, who does that? No one does that. Anyone worth their salt is either going to wait for daylight. They're going to bring a couple of flashes with them, maybe use some studio strobes, and then again, maybe use, you know, a window, you know, like Rembrandt used to use. You would use a window and you would light your scene appropriately. You're not going to shoot in the dead of night with no lights around. It just doesn't happen that way. No one does that. No one's ever done that. A few people have tried and given it a go when like the A7S and the A7S Mark II came out, but by and large, no one does that. I mean, it's impractical, first of all. B, you degrade the quality of your image, and C, you don't have the opportunity to create any depth or any kind of beauty in the scene because you're not shaping a person's face or a figure or your subject. You're not shaping that subject with any kind of light. And the only way you can get any of that 3D depth effect is to shape your subject with light, right? So I have been looking at Panasonic. I do think that they are moving in a direction that could potentially compete with some of these really big name camera companies. And I'm not saying that Panasonic's not, but I mean, the Micro Four Thirds sensor has always been like this mental hang up for me. You know, it's a crappy little sensor. It doesn't collect as much light. And then I also thought the exact same thing about the 1-inch sensors that were in like the RX 10 Mark II and 3, or Mark 1 for that matter. And also the Sony RX 100 Mark whatever, all of those cameras have 1-inch sensors, and I was still able to get some really good stuff out of those cameras. Now, to some people, that might be, kind of surprising. The elitists, the gear snobs and stuff, they'll be like, "Oh, that's just absolutely unusable." Who would ever dream? Who would dare? But there are a ton of people that are not going to be toting around an FS7 or an FS5 or a C300 or a Red every single place that they go. It just doesn't happen that way. Life doesn't happen that way. Projects, unless you are well funded, if you are being paid thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars, perhaps millions of dollars, where you're paid for the time not only to acquire that gear or rent that gear, but then take all that time to set it up, make sure that it's all properly, hooked up and stuff. No one does that. It's much easier. It's much better for someone to use a much more portable solution. And I find that to be exactly the case. I'm a ounce counter. I'm a gram counter. I want to shave as much possible weight off of my kit as possible. So when I'm going to a shoot or when I'm working with a client, not only do I get less fatigued, not only do I enjoy the process much more, not only do I feel more creative, but I enjoy photography again. I actually enjoy my job. But, when you're dragging around these huge, massive cameras and lenses and everything, you lose all the benefit of going to a smaller system. Okay, so here's my problem. And I'm going to start off, for those of you that may not know. The Sony E-mount line is, at least the cameras themselves, they've got a lot of tech built into those cameras. Amazing tech. But they lack the lenses for that line to make full use of all of that technology that they built into these smaller cameras. This is just my thought process. I've not talked to Sony. I've not asked them. But I almost think that they want you to buy the FE lenses, which in theory, if you bought FE lenses for an E-mount camera, you are going to get the best part of the image. You really are. You're going to have bigger lenses with a smaller sensor, and you're basically going to be getting the best portion of that lens, which is the center. You're going to basically reduce all the purple fringing, chromatic aberration, the soft edges, the whole thing. In theory, that's exactly what's going to happen. So you'd think, okay, well, that's what you want, right? You want the sharpest image. It is, but I also don't want the weight, and I don't want the extra cost, and I don't want the extra size. What was the point of me trying to reduce the size, weight, and bulk of my gear if I still have to spend time lugging it around? It just doesn't make any sense. So that brings me full circle around to Panasonic, where not only do they have damn near every lens under the sun, Panasonic uses Micro Four Thirds, which Olympus uses. and they have a massive amount of fantastic lens selection. They have a huge lens selection in just about every focal length that you would want. And they've been doing it for a very, very long time. So some of these older lenses also have so much better 3D detail. They create more depth. Whereas a lot of these newer lenses, they just don't. They've got so many elements. They've got so many different coatings. They've got so many different corrective lenses inside. You know, they all look flat to me. You know, there is no depth. A lot of those old film lenses really stand out. I think they look amazingly good. And, you know, I would like to have that aesthetic back. You know, I would like to be able to play around with those types of lenses again. Now, granted, you're not going to get as sharp as some of these modern day lenses. And I don't know why everyone puts and places such value on sharpness, because no one is printing, okay? I like sharp, but I don't need it to be razor sharp. I think it looks bad, even if it's razor sharp. I actually like a little bit of bleed in those fine lines. I like just a smidge because it adds it's like an organic feeling, you know. When something is too perfect, it just doesn't feel right. And the eyes sense that. My eyes do. It's not always just like overt. Sometimes it's even a little bit covert. I mean, but you know, when you look at something, you know that there's something not quite right with that image, whether it be video or photos. And there are a lot of lenses in the Micro Four Thirds world that still retain, I mean, because they're still making some of these lenses, that still retain that heavy 3D, multi-dimensional quality about them that most of these modern lenses do not have anymore. You know, once you get beyond a certain number of elements in a lens, I mean, everything starts to look flat. It doesn't look nearly as good as what it used to on either prime lenses or simple zooms that had fewer lens elements. You know, too many corrective lenses just ruin the image for me. But, you know, that's like being an audiophile. Like, I have this weird obsession with audio. So I buy reference class headphones because I want to hear every single nuance in that audio. I want to see what the noise floor sounds like. I want to see what all the different, you know, elements of that sound is. Is it rich? Is it bassy? Is it chesty? Is it, you know, that kind of thing. So you could really geek out on a lot of stuff. And that would also include visuals. So, you know, is it too soft? Is it too sharp? Is there, you know, too much of this or too much of that? How organic does it feel? Does it seem, you know, like you can go all fine wine on just about anything. And there are plenty of people that do. Some people just want, hey, does it take a picture? Great, I'll buy it. Does it do video? Oh, it's 4K, even better, I'll buy it. So you get some of these people that, you know, they just don't really care about the finer points. I'm that way on a lot of stuff. But it doesn't mean that every now and then I don't like to geek out and really kind of mess around the edges. So I've been kind of contemplating doing a video that would maybe illustrate the, you know, too many elements and over-processing and all that kind of stuff where it makes an image looks flat as opposed to a more 3D and textured look. So if you guys are interested in that, leave me a comment below or something like that. So anyway, so that's the reason I'm looking at Panasonic. And I am interested in what they've got going on. So once I get my evaluation copy of the G85 in, I'm definitely going to try that thing out. I want to. Like I said, I've got it on order, and I've got a couple of lenses for it that I want to test with it. And I'm really excited to see, you know, just how well it holds up. The two things that I'm most concerned about in the Panasonic line is not image quality, not its lens selection, not any of those things. The one thing that Sony has over most other camera brands right now is the fact that their autofocus is on point and the low light performance. I don't need massive low light performance. I just want to know that if I hit 6400, am I okay? Most situations, I'm never going above 6400. When I'm working professionally, I almost never go above 1600. But will 6400 ruin that image? Would it be usable? You know, so I know there's a lot of tests on the internet already, but I want to test stuff in my environment. You know, so I want to give it its field test in my environment and how I like to shoot. So I'll be doing some example videos and some example photos and stuff like that. If you guys are stoked about that, give this video a thumbs up. I would appreciate that. So honestly, that's all I really wanted to talk about. I wanted to kind of tell you guys exactly how I was feeling about the whole thing, kind of where I was wanting to move as far as, you know, what I'm looking at and why I'm looking at it, and why it is such a struggle sometimes, because I love autofocus. You know, I do a lot of videos in front of the camera, so that's a requisite for me, and I really need that, and I appreciate that. So to move away or to try and pick up another system while also having to buy all their lenses, and it not meet my requisite, then I mean that's just, you know, it's not gonna work very well. So at any rate, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Just listen to me ramble and test out this audio. Please give me some feedback on this audio and let me know how it sounded. You know, was there much reverb? Could you all tell any difference? Blah 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 blah. Yada yada yada. But anyway, just wanted to test it out and have a little chat with you guys at the exact same time. At any rate, I'm your host, Mark Puckett. I'll see you guys again in the next one.